Greetings, young squires. This is Sir Rolland, a faithful knight to the one true light, and you're listening to our series on how to face, fight, and defeat the 7 deadly dragons.
The boots of peace are another piece of armor given to us by St. Paul in Ephesians chapter 6. We wear boots or shoes on our feet to help us do 2 different things. First off, the boots can help us stand our ground when necessary. Sometimes we need to fight to bring peace. What do I mean? Well, we might need to live virtue by speaking the truth boldly, even if it's a truth that other people don't want to hear, or even if it makes them upset or angry at us. Sometimes we need to defend those who are being made fun of or being attacked by other people under the influence of dragons. We need to befriend those who are outcast or hurting, or offer a word of warning to those who are causing the hurt and tell them they're under the influence of dragons, which is, by the way, one of the spiritual works of mercy, to admonish sinners. We need to be patient with others and ourselves, as patience brings peace. The blue dragon, like all the dragons, can be sneaky and deceptive. Nobody should like violence and fighting, and sometimes we can be so desperate for peace that we're willing to sacrifice the truth or not stand up for what is right. We think the goal is for everybody to just get along. We think we're defeating the blue dragon if we can just get everyone to be nice. But the dragon is really just laughing at us because he intimidated us enough to surrender to dragons. In our attempt to find peace, we stop proclaiming that dragons even exist. If people don't believe in the dragons or sin, then anything goes. You do whatever you want, and I do whatever I want, and there is no truth. This is a dangerous dragon called relativism, and it doesn't bring peace, but chaos. It opens the door to all the dragons to flourish and have their way with people. So we must stand our ground in the boots of peace and live our faith and teach the truth, even if it's unpopular. But secondly, the boots can also help us to get away from our enemy, and sometimes we do need to retreat. The blue dragon is nothing to mess with, and if you're not ready to fight this dragon, and you feel anger is getting out of control and hatred and wrath are creeping into your heart, then you need to get away from the situation and live to fight another day. Go to your inner room and pray, and ask God to grant you peace and forgiveness before you do something you regret later. Now, most of the time, the blue dragon doesn't show up in the form of tyrants and dictators and world rulers, although those are out there. Most of the time, you will face the blue dragon in the middle of your ordinary life. Let me tell you, there's lots of different kinds of people with lots of different types of personalities and beliefs and temperaments. Some people will just annoy you, and you'll probably annoy other people. How you react to these people that maybe think, look, or act differently than you is how you fight the blue dragon. Let me tell you a true story to illustrate my point. I know it's a true story because I witnessed this encounter. This story is from my squire John, who is an eye doctor. We're pretty close, and we're around each other a lot, and a lot of people say we look and sound the same, although I think a majority of people do say I am slightly better looking. Well, Squire John works in nursing homes as an eye doctor. Most of his patients are very kind and easy to get along with, but there are a few that can be really challenging. There's one old lady in particular that tends to complain about everything, and one day, Squire John saw the old lady was on his list and started to prepare for an argument. Sure enough, the lady came in the room and immediately started complaining. She said, "I can't see anything." So Squire John asked her if she could read any of the letters on the eye chart, and she said, "Well, the bottom row's EVOTZ2, but they're fuzzy. These glasses aren't right. Do you know what you're doing? Are you even old enough to be an eye doctor?" Now, I must admit, Squire John does have a bit of a baby face, so even though he's quite old by your standards, and he's been practicing an eye doctor for almost 2 decades, he tends to look really young, especially to nursing home residents. But as you can imagine, this attack made him quite defensive, and the blue dragon crept into the room and whispered these words into his ear. "Are you going to let her talk to you like that? Tell her the bottom row's fuzzy because she's old. She's 96 years old. And tell her that you just look too young to be an eye doctor because she's old." So, as you can imagine, Squire John was pretty tempted to just defend himself and let her have it, as the blue dragon suggested. He does struggle with patience, and I feared the worst. But thankfully, he didn't listen to the dragon that day. Mother Teresa used to talk about how she pictured the people she cared for as Jesus in disguise. So Squire John decided to take that strategy and pretend this was really just Jesus in an annoying disguise trying to see if he would fall for the temptation of the blue dragon. So he calmly asked, "Sorry you're having trouble seeing, ma'am. What exactly are you having trouble seeing?" She replied, "My book. I can't see the words in my book." Squire John then asked, "Well, how small is the print in your book?" The old lady then proceeded to pull the book out of her purse. "Do you know what the book was?" Ordinary Lives, Extraordinary Mission by John R. Wood. That is Squire John, by the way. He exclaimed, "Ma'am, that's my book." She pulled the book away angrily and said, "No, it isn't. It's my book." Well, after showing her his name badge and convincing her that he was the author of the book she was reading, her demeanor immediately changed. She pulled out her cell phone and called her friend and made Squire John talk to her friend to prove to her friend that she was having an eye exam by the author of the book she was reading. Squire John is now best friends with the old lady. Okay, maybe not best friends, but all good stories deserve embellishment. And it's all because he decided to slay the blue dragon that day. So remember that the next time somebody makes you angry or annoys you. Put on the boots of peace and kill the blue dragon with kindness and forgiveness and patience.
So stay holy, young slayers, and until we meet again, I'll leave you under the protection of St. Michael the Great Archangel, St. Joseph the Terror of Dragons, and Mary, Queen of the Angels, Our Lady of Grace, and the woman whose seed crushed the head of the dragon.